The upcoming video is provided through free early access of The Sims 4 for Rent expansion pack from the EA Creator Network. I'm Jason Sterling. Thanks for watching.
At last, The Sims 4 for Rent expansion pack is on its way. December the 7th, it will be here. And with this video, I want to take a final moment for a few final thoughts on the pack itself. What it's about, what comes with it, and is it worth buying? I apologize for my voice here this morning. I've been a little under the weather. I feel fine. I feel great, but I am carrying a little bit of a residual of a head cold with me. Okay, now at its heart, this expansion pack really feels like a resort expansion pack. From the way the world is, the way it's designed, to the rental mechanism itself, which does allow as low as 1 day for rentals, for rental leases, right? You can rent the units on your property for just a single day if that's what you would like to do. Now, for whatever reason, it's not a resort pack. It is just a rental pack. Maybe they wanted broader appeal than just resorts, because in this case, you can own a rental any place, and it's important to make the distinction here that it's any sort of rental. It doesn't even have to be multifamily. You can own a single family home as a rental and rent that out. Or you can own a complex, like a subdivision, as sometimes people will do, where they'll build a road with several houses around the road. You can own something like that and rent the individual houses as units. So keep that in mind. This is not really an apartment pack. I've seen a lot of focus, myself included, on building apartments. A lot of builders, and this pack has immediate interest to builders, of course it does, have focused on the idea of building an apartment. But it is an important distinction to make that it's not just apartments. It is any sort of multifamily residence, or even a single family residence. That is the big feature of this particular pack. That is the cake of this pack. The other big feature of this pack is what I've been calling the new career of landlord, because it does operate like a career. It's not, being a landlord, being a property owner is not just you go out, you buy a piece of property, you collect the rent. In a lot of ways, you can kind of treat it that way. But there are repercussions for not being what I would call an active landlord. You're expected to keep your properties in good shape, keep your tenants happy. You can take a hit to your property rating if you're not careful with how you handle that sort of stuff, which will lead to less rent in the future. And even the way you do your rentals and the builds that you use for your rentals ties into that system. Because again, you don't just buy property and collect profit off of it. There is a certain expense associated with the properties. Comes in the form of a tax bill. So you have to keep in mind, at the end of the day, every day, whatever you're charging on that particular property, you've got to back out the taxes. Now, the rest of the gameplay would center around some things like a tenant. As a tenant, you're going to have some interactions with your landlord. They are going to show up at your apartment to do inspections sometimes. That's actually a pretty good thing. I haven't had any negatives from that yet, but if something's broken in your apartment, your landlord will fix it if they show up for an inspection. Also, there are some new interactions as a tenant with your apartment. Of course, you have various challenges you can add to the apartment for the tenants, like mold. We saw everybody drop dead of mold, right, in the trailer. So that's something that happens as a tenant with your properties. Also, your landlord can drop by for inspections and to check the property out. Now, so far, I haven't had anything negative happen with that. I'm still playing through as a tenant, but there are usually rules associated with the properties based on whatever the builder kind of placed on there, in addition to challenges like mold, stuff like that. We saw the mold challenge where you can drop dead. So there are some new gameplay features as a tenant as well. And my thought is, if you break one of the rules and your landlord shows up for an inspection and the rule is broken, you're going to get fined. And the fines can be substantial. Beyond that, most of the gameplay is going to center around the town itself and the things you can do around the town as a sort of local. There's a night market. That's going to be the biggest, I think, of those gameplay features. The night market operates a lot like a festival, but the great thing is it's opened every single night, so you can go there and do things every night if you wish. The bad thing is that even though it looks extensive on the trailer and extensive in pictures, like 24 stalls, 24 places to shop and eat, you only have 4. There's only 4 that are actually open, and it's always the same 4 doing the exact same things. Well, the merchandise stall does switch merchandise a little bit because you can kind of collect tassels and marbles there. You can buy a couple of clothing items. So there's a few changes with that particular stall, but once you have collected all of the collectibles, it's not going to seem that different from visit to visit, right? There might be carrots one time or potatoes another time, something along those lines. So the bad thing is you do get down there to the night market. You only have 4 stalls. 3 of them are little restaurants, and then you have a merchandise stall. It would be nice if the stalls themselves rotated. So like last night, this food place was open, or these 3 food places were open, but maybe tonight, these 3 food places are open. That did not happen. It did not happen. But it would have been really cool. It would have really helped that as a larger feature to make it a little more substantial. Most of the rest of the gameplay does center around rabbit holes. You've probably seen them. I don't particularly like them myself. I just don't. Not a big rabbit hole player. Rabbit hole gameplay is kind of like back in the 80s. Back when I was a kid, you would have had text-based gaming and you would just read on the screen kind of what was going on, right? And then there'd be these choices and you would choose the choice for your character in this game and it would tell you what happened, right? So that's that sort of gaming from literally, I'm not kidding, 40 years ago. So you're looking at a 40-year-old type of gameplay in this 21st century AAA title. And even when it's good and even when it is well developed, which it isn't always, you guys, it's still not really sufficient for a major title today. It just isn't. And we have 4 of those rabbit holes in this particular world. We have a fish market. That one's actually okay. The fish markets don't bother me that much, or markets like that, or a store. You just click on the outside of the store. It brings up a menu of options. You kind of pick out the things you want. Now, would it be great to walk into the store and do that? Sure. And in The Sims 2, I'm sure a lot of people remember we could do that. But I'll be satisfied with a rabbit hole for that sort of gameplay. The other 3 rabbit holes, though, should be more substantial. There should be more to them that your sim can do in game. One is the temple. It is a temple for the area. All you do literally is click on the temple, walk in, or disappear. Teleport inside, and then you teleport back outside, and you have basically a moodlet boost, right? That's it. No choices in there, nothing. Nothing goes on. You just go inside and come out. I did build an actual temple so that my Sims will have something to go and do. There's a shrine in game, so that does have interactive abilities. It's relatively small, and there's only a few things you can do, but it's definitely more active, and it's definitely more alive than going into a rabbit hole. There's also a rabbit hole tiger sanctuary. Now, I like the thought. I like the idea of conservation. There are a few choices you can make with it, but the choices are very limited. It is a great way to get a tiger plush. So there is that. And I did like the tiger plush. Very cute. But there's not much you can do. You don't see a tiger. I think we could have at least maybe seen some glowing eyes out in the forest or something. You don't even see that. And that's a real missed opportunity as well. Now, maybe they just didn't have time. Like I said, the real meat of this pack, the cake of this pack, is the rental mechanism, right? I'm sure it took a lot of development time and cost, but I'm not sure sticking in rabbit holes with really not much to do makes up for a lack of other gameplay. You know what I mean? I just don't know that I feel that way. So you have that, and then you have another Cave of Doom, just like we had in Horse Ranch. Cave of Doom is a little bit easier to deal with than Horse Ranch. You actually can go in and out as much as you want. You don't get blocked from returning for the day, so I do like that. I love the location. It's beautiful. It's beautiful where it is. Great place maybe to go camping. And that would at least give you something active to do. But there's nothing really there, and there's not any real major rewards, and nothing that you can't get from someplace else. Thank God. Let me say thank God, because I don't really want to have to go through the Cave of Doom to get anything substantial, to be quite honest. I really don't. As I already mentioned, the choose your own adventure sort of rabbit holes aren't my deal. So let's get off that subject. Okay, so there you go. The world itself is small. It is only 2 neighborhoods. This world really could have used a national park like the Horse Ranch had, with a large expansive area that you can kind of walk around and explore. Maybe you could have stuck both the temple and the tiger conservation rabbit holes in there. Hell, you could even put the Cave of Doom in there, right? But to have a big area where you can go to explore with maybe just 1 or 2 sort of residential spaces, that would have been really great. And this world really could have benefited from that. It did not happen. You've got 2 neighborhoods. One neighborhood is literally like walking around a resort. That's why this feels like a resort pack to me. The neighborhood that is kind of residential feels like walking around a resort. Pretty much all the buildings do match, except for the Maxis made ones, which are done in a much more sort of antique style. So all the buildings match, all the landscaping is perfect, everything looks manicured. It is an absolutely ideal paradise location. That is the world's big strength. If you like that sort of location, if you want Sulani 2.0 or Selva Dorada 2.0, this is it. This is a tropical world that is drop dead gorgeous. And there are beaches and there's places to swim, so you definitely have that as well in that particular resort area, right? That's why it feels like a resort. You could build buildings that match the other buildings and you would have essentially a resort. Just rent the apartments or rooms, but hell, make them rooms. You can rent those out by the day and you're good to go. The fact of the matter, though, is that the world is still too small. You only have 9 lots included, and those lots are really small. The largest lot you have is 30 by 40, and there's only 1 of those. Most of the lots are 20 by 20 or 20 by 15. That's not really a sizable space to build any sort of resort building, right? It's not really a sizable enough space to build a hotel. The 30 by 40 you could probably get away with, but not a sizable one, but at least there's some room there for a pool, all right? A pool and a gym. Although I will say I took a 20 by 15 lot in downtown Tomarang, and I did build a sort of condo tower on it with 3 apartments, and I did include a small gym and a pool there for realism. But it's small. I mean, it's really small. It's really tight. It's really compact. What isn't small is the asset catalog. The Build, Buy, Debug Hidden Objects catalog is huge. It is huge. There's a lot of items with this pack. Most of them are done in a sort of antique style. Again, the Maxis builds and the assets with this pack, I would say, really do feel like a 19th century type of build, right? A 19th century sort of feel to the area, which is a way of saying it's just not terribly modern, but there's a lot of it and it's done very well. I really did like it. It's not the style I was hoping for with this pack, nor is the world the style I was hoping for with this pack, but it doesn't change the fact that both of them are really good. The world is really beautiful and it is well designed, and the assets, the Build Buy catalog, is really beautiful and really well designed. So saying that it's not what I wanted, I'm not the only player in game, and saying that it's not what I wanted does not mean that it's not good. And it doesn't mean that I won't use it, because I will. I will use the world and I will use those assets, probably quite a bit, in fact. The other great thing about the asset catalog is most of it is actually in the standard catalog, so you don't have to put in cheats to reach a debug menu or a hidden objects menu to get most of the stuff. Things that normally I would find in debug is actually in the standard catalog in this case. I've done a whole video on the Build Buy, so I won't go into it too much here. I did a whole video on the world as well. But suffice to say that most everything you're going to be concerned with is in the standard catalog, so it's easily reachable. The hidden menu is mostly just the collectibles, you know, that are in the game with this particular pack. And then in debug, about the only thing you're going to be concerned with in debug, neither one of those menus is very big, mind you. In debug is going to be kind of the shells for the buildings. So the rabbit hole shells and the other shell buildings, those are in there. And if you want to build your own sort of neighborhood or movie set for storytelling, or maybe you want to try your hand at building a true tiger sanctuary with the rabbit hole in the middle, but around the outside, maybe you'll put things that you can do and things that you would enjoy having your Sims have there. Maybe even like a food stall or something. That is there for your use if you want to go that route. Lastly, we have casts, of course. The cast objects I really, really, really like. Now, let me say real quick. Did men get the shaft on the cast? Well, yes, of course they did. Because they always do, and they're always going to. Just get used to that. Get used to that idea. They always do, and they're always going to. But actually, I would say it's not as bad as normal. I really felt like there was quite a few things for men in the men's catalog. The few of them are kind of standard resort beachy looking type of things, granted. But the stuff that is a sort of modern take on the traditional sort of style of clothing for that particular area, really, really nice, really, really cool. I just love it. And in the feminine side, the traditionally feminine side, you have a lot of items that are really kind of unisex and do bleed over. There is still the issue of if you put a feminine designed item for that frame on a man, you still have a little bit of the bustiness, we'll call it that, the bustiness, I don't know what else you'd say, sort of the shadowing and the illusion of a feminine frame up top, right? Where you're going to have breast up top. And for a man, they do look like maybe he works out at a gym a lot. You know, like he needs to maybe not focus on his chest so much. Maybe he needs to work on some other parts of his body and drop off on the chest. But the items themselves are really cool. They do look really, really good. I've been very happy with them. So to say that men got the shaft like always is really not saying as much, I think, with this pack. I do think the cast items are just beautiful. By and large, they are beautiful. They're stylish. They have a great look. They have a great take on a traditional style modernized for the 21st century. And in fact, cast to me is a whole lot more modern than the rest of the pack. A lot of great modern styles. I really, really, really like it. And I think it might end up being one of my more favorite cast selections. I'm not a big cast creator, but I do think it's going to end up being one of my more favorite cast selections. The big slip with it is shoes. The shoes aren't great. They're okay. I mean, there's a pair of tennis shoes. Did we need another pair of tennis shoes for Southeast Asia that look like the tennis shoes in Los Angeles or anyplace else? Not really, we didn't. Not really, we didn't. And yes, I'm sure they wear tennis shoes in Southeast Asia. They wear tennis shoes all over the world. So I'm sure that they do. But I don't know that we needed another pair of just what is essentially strictly tennis shoes. They look good. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But I don't know that we needed that. But what we did need and what we did get was we got stuff for both kids, not both, all three. We got stuff for kids, toddlers, and infants, all three age groups, which was really nice. Not a huge amount. But compared to zero, it was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty good. And I'm always happy to see any of it that they do kind of put into that. I know those aren't the most played age ranges. I know that. We all know that. We know that young adult is the most played age range within that game. But it is nice to see that for kids. And if you're someone like me and you do play with kids in game, especially toddlers, you know that toddler clothes don't get any cuter in your entire life ever. That's it. The cutest time you will ever be in your life, the cutest clothes you will ever have in your life are when you're a toddler. And that's just the fact of the matter. So it would be nice to see even more toddler stuff, especially because that is the cute dressing time in life. And then you've got a whole bunch of new hairstyles. I really, really love two of the men's hairstyles. Absolutely love them. I'll probably use them a lot. One of them in particular will probably become, again, in my group of favorites that get put on a lot of guys. It's exactly the sort of hairstyle I have myself at the moment, where it's long on top, kind of shaved on the sides. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So maybe that's why I love it. I don't know. But I do love the new hairstyles with the game. There's several women's hairstyles, of course. Some of those are applicable to men. Like there's a plain sort of long hairstyle. A guy definitely could wear that. And that's cast. That's what you have. It is a really good showing so far. By and large, with the exception of the world and the heavy reliance on rabbit holes, the pack is a really good showing. And that's why I would say in general, for most people, I do think this pack is worth buying. And I'm going to tell you what. Is it builder heavy? Yeah. Does it look like a builder expansion pack? Yeah. But how many people rely on builders to help facilitate their gameplay? And a lot of builders are going to be building a lot of multifamily homes. And I think that mechanism is going to filter through a lot of gameplay. Now, never mind things like you can be a landlord now and own properties. A lot of people are focusing on building the properties. Being a landlord and owning the properties is just as important of a change in The Sims 4 as being able to build them in the first place. So far, we've not been able to own more than one property at a time in The Sims 4. Now we can own up to 100. Which is a lot. That's a lot. We can own up to 100 properties in this game. Now, it's not all of them, and I had a dream. I did have a dream where we were going to be able to own literally every single property in The Sims, in every Sims world across the entire game. That dream is not going to come true, you guys, because I think we can only own up to 100 properties, but 100 is still a lot. I mean, it's still going to make you the major landowner in the game. You're going to be a land grab. You're going to set it up. It's going to be your way, right? But beyond that, with the build mechanism, I do think that rental and multifamily sort of lots are going to filter into a lot of different gameplay, things like generational gameplay especially, and generational challenges and challenges in general. You're going to see that sort of filtering into gameplay using this mechanism. You're going to see things like, okay, you can only own 100 lots, but maybe your sim has to end up buying the 100 biggest lots in game, right? So that they end up being the biggest landowner in game. Obviously, with generational gameplay, you know, you could say you guys start off with a 64 by 64, and you've got to put every generation on that lot. So maybe you have to build smaller and smaller houses, and they all have to have their own place, right? They'll have to have their own place. So you've got to build either smaller and smaller buildings, or you've got to subdivide the buildings more and more and more so that you can fit your generations all on one lot. That's another sort of generational, I think, change we're going to see with this particular mechanism. So I feel like even if you're thinking, well, I'm not a builder, so what do I want this for? I think there's a lot of ways this is going to permeate your game. Never mind, of course, the world, though it is small, it is a beautiful world. It is a great place if you want to try. If you want to try, and maybe a modder will even get this done, setting up a resort. If you want to try setting up a resort, creating something, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try setting up something of a resort at some point with, you know, like a restaurant and a main hall, a main sort of lobby, and then some towers for some rooms, right? Things like that. Now let's talk about cost. Cost is variable. This is a global market. The Sims is a global game in a global market, and cost is variable. It's very hard for me to say, and I don't say it any longer, that this or that is worth this or that, because at the end of the day, my position here in the United States as a middle-class person living in the United States, living in a Western country, is a lot different than other people living in other situations in other countries. So here's the way I look at it. Everything in the world has an opportunity cost. So if you buy this pack, you're giving up the opportunity to buy something else or do something else. And only you can look at what you make and what things cost in your area and be a judge of saying, hey, yeah, I have to give up this. I have to give up X, Y, Z, but for this pack. But I get this pack, and this pack will bring me X amount of hours of enjoyment, and that will be more, that's worth more to me than this other side of things. And that's what I do myself in my own life too. One metric that I use often is a trip to the movie theater. Now here in my own particular area, if I was going to go to the movies today, I'm going to be looking at a movie ticket for a cost of around $15. And then if I get a small popcorn, a bag of candy, and a drink, I'm going to be looking at another $20. Okay, so that's $35 to go to the movies for 2 hours. So, okay, from my standpoint in America, where the pricing is set for these games, right or wrong, you know, global capitalism sucks. Capitalism kind of sucks, but global capitalism sucks. That's where the prices are set. It's based on a Western middle-class income. And for a lot of people in that situation, like myself, it's real easy to say, oh, yeah, it's worth it. Yeah, it's worth it. I don't care if I go see that movie. I'd rather play this game. I'm going to use this pack literally probably for 1,000 hours, right? So definitely it's worth it. But in your own particular area, that metric's going to be different. And that's even ignoring the fact that sometimes in some areas you just don't have the money, period. And that goes for the United States too. Not everyone in the United States can afford this game when it first comes out. And in different areas of the United States, things are cheaper. And in different areas of the United States, people make wildly different incomes for the same job. So that also is a thing. I say, well, here in the United States, we can blah, blah, blah. No, we really can't. It depends on where you live in the United States, what your income is in the United States, and what things cost in your area of the United States as well. So keep that in mind. And like I said, sometimes at the end of the day, you just don't have the disposable income to make those choices anyway, right? That's also part of the metric. It's also part of saying, well, I love this pack and it looks really cool and I really, really want it. I simply just don't have any money left at the end after paying all the bills. And you know, what can you say there? Well, it'll go on sale. It goes on sale rapidly anymore. It goes on sale all the time. Okay, so that's it. Only you can make that decision. Only you can make that determination. Hopefully it gives you some ideas on how to determine whether or not you do want this game. I have a lot of videos that do show more in depth on build, buy, and the world, and even gameplay. I've had a lot of fun with the gameplay. And hopefully you'll hit like, subscribe, and notify so you can see those. You can see those videos without doing that. But if you hit like, subscribe, and notify, when I do future videos, you'll get notified, right? You'll know that they're there. And I do a lot of live streaming as well. Check out some of the live streams. Those are usually a lot of fun. I did a pretty big live stream where we talked a lot about build, buy, and I did a live stream with Cass, where I was constructing a new character. Cass also, I talked a lot about the clothing. There's also 4 new aspirations and 4 new traits in Cass, including one that is elder specific. So you have some great new options there too in Cass. I almost forgot those. Sometimes I forget like the little things like that, but those are really not that little. I love the new cringe trait. It's super cool. Does add some really neat stuff. So does Child of the Village add some really neat stuff, some neat animations and some neat interactions. So check those out in Cass too. I really do think those are cool. And keep in mind when we talk about careers, I talked about the landlord. I think snooping's kind of a career too. I haven't had a chance to check that out yet. I've had this pack for about 3 weeks while it was still under development, and I still have not had time to get through it all. I mean, now granted, I'm making some videos along the way, but I've put in literally, I don't know how many hours into this game already, maybe 50 hours into this pack at least of playing and building and doing stuff like that. I have not scratched the surface with stuff that I actually really do want to do because I did want to break into people's apartments and try blackmailing them and maybe turn that into a career, right? Maybe I want to just get free money as a career. I didn't want to work as a landlord. Spoiler alert, I had to work as a landlord. But yeah, maybe that way, if I break into people's apartments, my tenants, and break into their mail, I can learn secrets about them, and then I can blackmail them and get their rent, and the rest of their money is left over at the end of the payday, like a true capitalist would do, right? True uber capitalist would do. So I'm going to see if I can do that. But there is a lot to this pack. I really have spent a lot of time playing it already, and I'm still not close to getting through everything I want to do. So, okay, please hit like, subscribe, and notify. Maybe you can catch me doing some of that stuff I want to do. And in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching.